What is going on, everybody? And welcome back to Spoilers and Unfiltered. And look, I know everybody has seen Obsession at this point, and every creator under the sun has made their end and explain videos. They've done their reviews. But today we're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to break this thing down, but we're going to do it through a completely different lens because I think this movie honestly deserves it. So I'm going to be completely real with y'all. I went into this movie almost basically blind. I initially had saw the promotional footage for this film. I saw the trailers, I saw the early reviews, and I really did want to see this movie. I really just couldn't find the time to fit it into my schedule, but I hadn't seen the trailer or really read about what the movie was for a really long ass time. So I was basically blind going into this film. And honestly, I may actually start going into more films like this because it was a pleasant surprise. I know we've all heard the massive internet hype, how great the movie is. We've seen the director talk about it, and I am here to tell you it is completely 100% true. For me and my taste, from beginning to end, this movie gave me everything that I wanted. It's simple, it's creative, you have the moody ass lighting that's perfect, and the acting from a bunch of actors that I personally have never heard of was top tier. But what really blew me away in this film was the atmosphere, because it kept that underlying creepy and like skin crawling type of feel, sort of like It Follows. Honestly, this was probably the most satisfying horror movie I've actually seen since It Follows. I've seen some really good horror movies since then, but as far as getting everything that I want in a horror movie from beginning to end, I have not gotten that since It Follows. But beneath the jump scares and the tension, Obsession is actually playing with some deeply unsettling real world anxieties. I think it forces us to look at the modern dating culture, the need for validation, and what happens when toxic male entitlement decides to basically bypass human consent. So grab a drink, grab your coffee, lock your doors, and let's go ahead and break down this beautiful nightmare. So let's talk about the actual mechanics of this film. Because if you treat the supernatural gimmick like a tech unboxing, the product liability on this thing is going to be a disaster. Premise for this film is beautifully simple. We have Bear, who's a thoroughly pathetic music store employee who has this 7-year unrequited crush on his coworker and friend, Nikki. Now, they're part of this 4-person friend group, and it's your typical messy dynamic. And then we have the girl who actually likes Bear, who gets completely ignored because he has the blinders on for Nikki. And while he wants Nikki, we don't know if Nikki really wants him. So long story short, Nikki loses her necklace. Bear, trying to make some type of good impression, goes to this local new age occult store to try to replace the necklace. But instead of getting the necklace to replace the one that she lost, he instead buys a One Wish Willow. And it looks cheap, like a little honky gag gift type of toy that you would give somebody to make them laugh. But after a night of partying with their friend group, Bear takes Nikki home, a nice gesture. And after some conversation between the two and going back and forth, she asks him point blank, "Do you like me?" And what does Bear do? He's a coward. He just loses his spine and he says, "No, we're just friends." And then, she says, "Okay." And then she walks off. And out of sheer panic and anxiety and frustration with himself for having the opportunity to just be honest and just say yes, he takes the One Wish Willow out of the bag and makes a wish that Nikki would fall in love with him. And what happens? She falls more than in love with him. On top of actually instantly falling in love with him, she actually starts to glitch at the same time. And the glitches were terrific. They were horrific. They were sudden. They were snappy. And the way they were done were just really, really creepy. And it just had me sit on the edge of my seat. But with all that being said, though, Bear gets exactly what he wants. Or does he? Because he doesn't get this organic relationship where Nikki actually wants to be with him. Bear gets the love-attached demon that possesses Nikki, and we'll call her Freaky Nikki for this video since that was her nickname that she didn't like in the film. And Freaky Nikki sticks to Bear like glue. And this is where the movie starts to pull off its incredible tug-of-war. It walks this razor-thin line between being deeply unsettling and really damn funny. Like literally. One minute you're laughing at the absurdist comedy of a drinking Jenga game, or you have Andy Richard running a music store, and then the next minute the mask slips and then you're cowering in your seat. But let's stop here for 1 second because I need to talk about Bear's trash tier layer of decision making. Now, if your girlfriend is sleeping beside you in bed and she literally starts begging for her death in her sleep, whispering that she's trapped, what do? Do you call an ambulance? Do you call a priest? No. Bear just rolls over and he ignores it because he is not willing to snap out of this fantasy of a love story that he created. And don't even get me started with that sandwich. Freaky Nikki literally takes dead cat Sandy, his dead cat, turns it into a literal Sandy witch, and she packs it into his little lunchbox and sends him off with it to work. And there we see Bear takes a massive bite out of the sandwich. He was starving for it. You know, his girlfriend made him a sandwich and he's going to eat it. And then in the next second, he's looking at something and then he starts throwing up in a trash can. Like, yep, that's just an inside joke. Bro, your trim is scuffed, your house is taped shut, and you're eating feline for lunch meat. At a certain point, you just stop being a tragic main character and you just start being an active participant in your own haunting. Now back to the film, the jump scares come out of nowhere. I was even expecting one of them and it still got the one when Nikki runs out of nowhere and jumps through the car glass and she starts smashing Sarah's head and face into the steering wheel. And it wasn't Ennis smashing her head into the steering wheel either. She is violently smashing her head into that steering wheel. It's a vicious moment. It's very raw. And it really pivots the movie into the absolute chaos. Now let's get into the real meat of the film because Obsession is a masterclass study in modern dating dynamics, the terrifying concept of forced compliance. Bear represents that incredibly toxic, modern, nice guy delusion. He is so consumed by his own loneliness and his idolized fantasy of Nikki that he doesn't even really care about who she is as a person. And that's just my opinion. Also, in my opinion, he treats love somewhat like a slot machine. You know, he put his tokens in as a friend for all those years. And for whatever reason, now he feels this entitlement to her body and to her affection. And I say that because when he snaps that one wish Willow, he completely takes any chance that she has of making any free will choice. He takes it away. And then we see throughout the film, we get these jarring, heartbreaking moments where the regular Nikki is trying to come out. We see for a few seconds here and there where she's able to seize back control and scream or do a weird smile. Like the one scene in the bed where Freaky Nikki is kissing Bear and then she pops up and then she starts screaming. And that was the real Nikki that started screaming like, what the fuck? But this entire situation basically turns Nikki into a prisoner in her own body. She becomes this empty husk, a mannequin, if you want to call it, forced to put on this tight, frozen, uncanny smile, all just to appease Bear's little ego. Like, for instance, look at the visual metaphor of her creeping across the room. You know, that scene where she started in the corner and then we didn't see her, and then she bolted across the room with a plant across her face. Did we stop to ask why she may be doing that? I think it's because that Freaky Nikki face or demonic face that she has is probably starting to slip a little bit and she has to hide it. That way Bear won't stop loving this illusion that he has. And I think when you tie it back into the real world, it's a damning critique of how far people in this generation will go for or to just feel accepted. Bear knows this is fake. He's not that stupid. He knows pretty early on that this is all fake and what exactly is going on, because if he didn't, he wouldn't be trying to find ways around. Like, we see this girl glitching, we see her pissing herself, we see her literally losing her humanity right in front of us. But then we have Bear's self-centered worldview that is just so desperate for validation that he ignores the screaming soul, quite literally, that's right in front of him. And he basically just says, the hell with it. I'll just keep playing house. I'm good. So I'm going to ask you guys a real question as well. So drop a comment down below. Have you guys ever met a real life version of Bear? Have you ever seen anybody carry on like this in real life? You know, somebody who's a delusional nice guy or a nice girl and they can't accept any real boundaries. And do you think this movie is a 100% accurate kind of self-reflection of the unhinged modern dating culture? Let me know what you guys think below. I'm going to read all of these comments. And that kind of takes me into what makes Obsession stand out right now. And for me, especially in the horror genre, the thing that stands out the most is that I got a complete story. I didn't leave this film feeling cheated. I didn't leave this film feeling like, oh my God, what happened? What's going on next? Is there going to be a sequel? In my opinion, this movie gives you a definitive ending. You know exactly what's happened and you know all the ramifications of what's going to come next. And I heavily appreciate a horror script, especially that actually finishes all of its thoughts. But even with the complete narrative, Curry Baker leaves with just enough wild details on the table for a podcast host just like myself to stay up at night. First of all, one of the questions I did have, and I didn't really care, it didn't ruin the movie for me, but what is the One Wish Willow? When Bear calls the customer service line and talks to this casually nonchalant worker there. It was kind of a crazy call, not terrifying, but definitely make your skin crawl a little bit, because the fact that the operator, after talking to Bear for a few minutes, casually just patched him through to the real Nikki, screaming her ass off in the background, is kind of crazy. It kind of gives me goosebumps right now thinking about it. Like, what is this? Some type of corporate demon network or some kind of cosmic entity running a call center? I just thought it was a real fun way to use a simple object in a film and make something really terrifying happen around it. And then on that note, secondly, let's look at the tragedy of that finale, because Bear realizes from, his phone call that the only way for him to escape this is for him to die. So he takes the coward way out, and we all knew he would take some type of cowardly way out because he definitely couldn't deal with this situation. And he takes his grandmother's oxycodone pills and he overdoses on. But right before he goes, Nikki takes that same one wish Willow, or a different one maybe, and she makes a wish of her own for Bear to fall in love with her. And we didn't see it happen, but seeing his reaction to her and how happy he was to be kissing on her right before he overdoses and falls on the floor and dies and we heard the ringing and the click of it, we know she cast a wish. So his reaction told us exactly what her wish was. And what else would it be when all she wants is him? But the moment Bear heart stops, well, maybe not at the very moment, but a couple of moments later after Bear's heart stops, the real Nikki comes back. But think about the catastrophic aftermath that she is waking up to, or maybe she was somewhat of a witness to, but it's all hers now. Ian is shot dead. Your friend Sarah got her face bashed in. Bear is dead on the floor in front of you. You're covered in blood, and you're the only person left standing amongst your friends. Not to mention, your fingerprints are all over the gun that blew Ian away. And that really brings me to my verdict. For me, this film was a 10 out of 10. I know some people may say I'm glazing for that, or that I'm just riding a wave. I'm really not. And if it makes you feel better, I'll just say it's a 9 out of 10, but in my heart, it's really a 10. The atmosphere, the acting, the pitch black humor, the sheer audacity of that ending, for me, makes this a modern landmark. But I want to close out on the most unfair aspect of this entire film. Let's talk about the coward's escape, because Bear completely avoids any of the real world repercussions of his actions. He's the one who made a selfish wish. He caused all of this chaos because of his wish. And then by taking those pills and overdosing, he chose to check out early, and he doesn't even have to deal with any of the shit that he caused. And then let's talk about the victim's sentence, because there is a victim in all of this, and it's Nikki, the real Nikki. Every single ounce of blame, trauma, legal fallout is going to fall right in her lap. Everything is going to completely shift to Nikki. She's the one that's sitting in the house with all of her dead friends. Her hands just happen to be on the murder weapon for Ian, only because she was going to blow her own head away when she was freaking Nikki, which was something that was, again, caused by Bear. And when the police ultimately show up, what do you think they're going to think when they see all of this? She's going to look like a unhinged triple homicide maniac. It's completely unfair, honestly, and that's the real gut punch to everything in this film. So I want to hear from you guys. Do you think Bear got the punishment that he deserved? Because I don't. I think he completely took the easy way out, but you guys let me know what you think, because he absolutely ruined Nikki's life, and I just don't know any other way to put it, because that's exactly what Bear did. But drop your thoughts down in the comments on what you think about that. So if you enjoyed this breakdown, do me a massive favor, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit that bell as well. That way you know when the next video drops. And please keep coming by for more. I really appreciate it. I love coming to you all. And thank you again for coming. Make sure to follow me on all of my socials. Hype this video if you want. I'm not sure what the hype does, but please do. I appreciate it. And with all of that being said, I will see you in the next one.